Hello viewers, welcome to my channel. When it comes to Grey's Anatomy, few shows have mastered the art of heartbreak quite like Shonda Rhimes' long-running medical drama. Over 2 decades, the series has made fans laugh, cry, and often scream at their televisions, largely because no character, no matter how beloved, has ever been safe from tragedy. But even for Shonda Rhimes, the mind behind the magic and the misery, there's one death that she admits hurt her the most, the one that broke her completely. And that, she says, was the death of Dr. George O'Malley. The day George O'Malley died. Played by T.R. Knight, George O'Malley was one of the original interns at Seattle Grace Hospital when Grey's Anatomy premiered in 2005. He wasn't the flashiest or most confident of the bunch, but he was loyal, kind-hearted, and often the moral center of the group. Fans adored his awkward charm, his empathy, and his deep friendship with Meredith, Izzy, and the rest of the Twisted Sisters. Then came the moment no one saw coming. In the shocking season 5 finale, a disfigured John Doe is rushed into the hospital after being dragged by a bus while saving a woman's life. None of the doctors recognize him, not Meredith, not Miranda Bailey, not even his closest friends. It's only when the patient shakily traces 007 on Meredith's hand, George's old nickname, that the truth hits. The burned, unrecognizable man on the gurney is George O'Malley. That moment changed everything. And for Shonda Rhimes, it's one she still hasn't completely recovered from. It broke me. In a recent conversation, Rhimes revealed that writing George's death was one of the hardest creative decisions of her career. She said, "It broke me. I couldn't sleep for days after writing it. George was such a pure soul, losing him hurt like losing a real friend." The decision wasn't made lightly. At the time, T.R. Knight was exiting the show after behind-the-scenes challenges, but Rhimes wanted his departure to feel heroic, not hollow. If George had to go, she explained, he was going to go out saving someone else. That was exactly who he was, selfless, brave, and full of heart. The way the scene was crafted, a nearly wordless sequence where recognition slowly dawns, was intentional. Rhimes wanted the audience to feel the same gut punch that the doctors did. "I wanted it to hit all at once," she said. That moment of realization, the shock, the grief, the disbelief, that's what life is. It doesn't warn you why George's death stands apart. Across Grey's Anatomy's many seasons, Shonda Rhimes has written some of television's most gut-wrenching goodbyes. Denny Duquette's heart-wrenching death in season 2. Lexi and Mark's plane crash tragedy. Derek Shepherd's shocking end on the side of the road. Each one left fans reeling. But George's death, Rhimes says, struck differently. First, it wasn't just a death, it was a reveal. The audience spent much of the finale unaware that the quiet, faceless patient was a character they'd loved for years. When Meredith realizes it's George, the silence that follows feels heavier than any dramatic score could have. Second, it was about identity. George was unrecognizable, his face destroyed, and that played directly into one of Rhimes' favorite storytelling themes, how we see one another. For me, that story wasn't only about death, she explained. It was about being seen, about how sometimes we don't really see people until it's too late. Finally, George's death symbolized the loss of innocence, both for the characters and the show itself. Grey's Anatomy had always been emotional, but this was the first time it truly broke hearts on a massive scale. After George, Rhimes admitted, the show changed forever. It forced everyone to grow up, including me. T.R. Knight's commitment. Rhimes also praised T.R. Knight's dedication to the emotional realism of George's final scenes. Though most of his face was bandaged and obscured, the actor insisted on being present for every moment. He wanted to feel it, Rhimes said. He wanted to be there for his friends' reactions, even when his character couldn't speak. That level of commitment made it so much harder for me to let him go. Knight's quiet performance, even through prosthetics and silence, brought raw humanity to the episode. His portrayal made George's final act of heroism unforgettable. There was something almost spiritual about it, Rhimes added. George died saving a life. There's no greater tribute to who he was. The aftermath. Fans were shattered. Social media erupted with grief, long before trending was a common term. People couldn't believe that sweet George was gone. For many, it was the moment that proved Grey's Anatomy was more than just a medical drama, it was a story about life, death, and everything in between. Rhimes received thousands of letters from fans who felt personally connected to George. Some people told me they lost someone around the same time, she recalled. They said watching George's story helped them process it. That made it worth the pain. Inside the writer's room, though, Rhimes admits the mood was somber. We cried. A lot. Writing that script was like grieving a real friend. I think everyone in that room had a George in their life, someone good and kind who didn't deserve what happened to them. Lessons in grief and storytelling. For Shonda Rhimes, George's death became a creative turning point. It taught her how to write grief with honesty, and how to make loss meaningful. I realized then that death on television shouldn't just shock you, she explained. It should transform you. That philosophy shaped every tragic moment that followed on Grey's Anatomy. Whether it was Izzy mourning Denny, Meredith losing Derek, or Bailey saying goodbye to her patients, each story was about growth and resilience. But George's death remained the emotional blueprint. George taught me how to write pain, Rhimes said. He taught me that if you love a character enough, their death can mean something, not just to the story, but to the people watching. The ripple effect. George's passing continued to echo through the show for years. Meredith carried his memory with her as a symbol of compassion. Izzy's breakdown after his death marked one of her rawest moments. Even newer characters referenced him, as if his legacy was woven into the walls of Grey Sloan Memorial Hospital. And when the show revisited George in season 17, during Meredith's dreamlike COVID coma sequences, fans were once again in tears. Knight's return as George was a full-circle moment, not just for the character but for Rhimes herself. Seeing him again, she said, reminded me why I fell in love with storytelling in the first place. Why it still hurts. So why, after all these years, does George's death still haunt Shonda Rhimes? Because, she says, it was pure. There was no scandal, no villain, no twist, Rhimes explained. Just a good man who saw someone in trouble and didn't hesitate. He was the best of us. And we lost him. Rhimes has often said that Grey's Anatomy is ultimately a show about hope, about finding light even in darkness. But George's death, she admits, was one of the few times where that light flickered. It broke me because I didn't want to say goodbye. I wanted him to live. But sometimes, the story demands something else. The death that defined a legacy. In many ways, George O'Malley's death redefined Grey's Anatomy. It proved that the show wasn't afraid to take risks, to make audiences feel deeply, even painfully. It also cemented Rhimes' reputation as one of television's boldest storytellers. Years later, fans still talk about the 007 moment as one of the most unforgettable scenes in TV history. It's the kind of storytelling that transcends time, the kind that lingers. And for Shonda Rhimes, it's a reminder that even the writer can be broken by her own creation. Every time I think of George, she said softly, I still feel that ache. But I also feel proud. Because he reminded us that even in death, kindness matters. And that's something I'll carry with me forever.